digestive system is responsible for the breakdown, the digestion and absorption of food. The digestive tract, also known as the alimentary canal, is the pathway where food travels through after being ingested. Food can be grouped into three main categories: carbohydrates such as bread, proteins such as meat, and lipids such as oil. These foods are ingested by the human. The food will be digested by the digestive system. So food enters the oral cavity. The process called mastication occurs, which is essentially chewing. Food will be broken down mechanically by the mouth, teeth playing a key role. The tongue plays a role in tasting the food as well as mixing the food around, while the salivary glands within the oral cavity secrete saliva, which lubricates the food. The salivary glands also secrete an enzyme called amylase, which will initiate carbohydrate digestion. Once the food leaves the oral cavity in a partially digested form, it is swallowed, a term called deglutination. The food is actually now referred to as a bolus. The bolus, which means bowl in Latin, is a mass of food that has been chewed up. The bolus will travel through the esophagus thanks to peristalsis. Now, peristalsis is the involuntary contraction of the smooth muscles that line the digestive tract. Peristalsis allows the movement of food through the digestive tract, essentially. And so the bolus will eventually enter the stomach. The stomach will temporarily store and churn the bolus. The stomach is able to churn the bolus because it has 3 layers of muscle. The stomach cells also secrete chemicals and enzymes such as hydrochloric acid that helps break down the food, kill bacteria, and stimulate enzyme secretions. The stomach cells also secrete mucus that helps protect the lining of the stomach, as well as pepsin that begins protein digestion. The vigorous contraction of stomach muscles and the stomach secretions results in the liquefaction of the food, which is then slowly released into the small intestine. The Pylorus Sphincter is the barrier between the stomach and the small intestine. During digestion, the Pylorus Sphincter opens in phases, allowing the liquefied food, now referred to as chyme, to enter the small intestine. The small intestine is divided into 3 segments: the duodenum, the jejunum, and ileum. The ileum connects to the starch of the large intestine here. The small intestine is very important because it is where most of the digestion and absorption of food takes place. However, it cannot do this without the help of the accessory organs: the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. The liver produces bile, which has a critical role in lipid digestion. The gallbladder stores the bile, and when needed, the gallbladder will contract and release the bile into the small intestine. So bile will enter the small intestine through the bile duct. So to see where the food is, the chyme is actually coming from the stomach and is here within the small intestine now. So the other important accessory organ that has to be mentioned here is the pancreas. The pancreas is an important endocrine and exocrine gland. During digestion, the pancreas secretes many enzymes. These pancreatic digestive enzymes will be secreted into the small intestine as well through the pancreatic duct. The pancreatic duct actually connects with the bile duct and consequently to the small intestine. The main enzymes secreted by the pancreas for digestion are lipases for lipid digestion, pancreatic amylase for carbohydrate digestion, and protease that helps in protein digestion. So the chyme will encounter all these enzymes and will be digested further. The small intestine itself have some enzymes called brush border enzymes that are actually found on the cell membranes. These brush border enzymes include maltase, lactase, sucrase, and peptidase. The brush border enzymes are sort of the final step of food digestion. The chyme will encounter all these enzymes and chemicals which will further digest it into smaller molecules. These smaller molecules are the monosaccharides, amino acids, fatty acids, and glycerol, which are the building blocks of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And it is only in this form that the body can absorb them.
Grass consumed by an animal is crushed into pulp in the mouth. It is also moistened by saliva and moved to the rumen by peristalsis of the esophagus. In the rumen, crushed food is mixed with symbiotic microorganisms that break down cellulose and other organic compounds into simple sugars. Rumen bacteria also bind inorganic nitrogen and incorporate it into their own proteins. These bacteria also synthesize B-complex vitamins. Apart from bacteria, the rumen is also inhabited by ciliates. Some of them break down cellulose, while others feed on the rumen bacteria. The cud fermented by microorganisms is moved to the second chamber, the reticulum, where it is further grinded and formed into balls. These are regurgitated by antiperistalsis into the mouth to be chewed again. Thoroughly chewed and swallowed again, the digester is passed by peristalsis to the third chamber, the omosum, where water is absorbed and the digester condensed. From the omosum, the condensed digester passes to the abomosum, the final chamber of the stomach. The abomosum, which is the proper stomach, secretes enzymes to initiate the digestion of proteins released from plant cells, and also proteins of bacteria and ciliates found in the rumen.
For the digestive system of rodents, the cellulase is secreted by the cellulase-producing bacteria in cecum. So the food actually passes through the alimentary canal twice in rodents. First as food taken from the rodents, and the second as soft feces, where it is digested at night. The feces that usually produced at night is soft and watery, and we call it as first fecal pellets. It will then be eaten again by the rodents and going through and enter the alimentary tract again, and finally after it digested completely, the second fecal pellets will be ingested as hard and dry feces, usually during the day. So as we can see here, the food will start to be eaten and ground by the teeth in the mouth, and then swallowed into esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and then it's going through the cecum where the cellulose is digested there by the bacteria. And then the first fecal pellets will be digested through anus, and then we eat the feces to absorb more nutrients, and it going to go through the alimentary tract again, and finally the second fecal pellet is going to be digested. Okay, that is all. Lastly, there are 3 digestive problems such as incomplete digestion due to lack of fiber in the diet. Second one is formation of gallstones formed from bile pigments, cholesterol, and calcium salts. And the last one is lactose intolerance, where the condition the body cannot digest milk sugar.